record.
No problem.
So we have a recording of it. All right. Well, hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. It looks like you have had an incredibly successful day, and I hope it's a fabulous start to your time here at NJCU. My name is Dr. Christine Harrington. I'm an associate professor and co-coordinator of a doctoral program here. It's an ADD and community college leadership. And I work with lots of the different faculty members on campus and want to share a few, kind of tips with you about how you can be successful in online courses. I know some of you are really excited about this new opportunity. Some of you may have already had some exposure to what online learning is, but many of you may also have some questions. So I hope that this next half hour or so will provide you with some answers to that and be useful to you. So I want to get started with a poll question. So the first thing I'm going to ask you to do is just answer this question. Will you be meeting via Zoom for your classes coming this fall? So you can just answer to the best of your knowledge. There is an I'm not sure category, so go ahead and choose that one if you're not positive how your classes are going to be meeting yet. I'm trying to get a sense of if you are doing a lot of the synchronous live kind of recording sessions. All right, if it looks like most folks have responded, if you want to share the results, if you don't mind doing that. So
Absolutely.
yeah, thank you. So it looks like many of you are going to be having some Zoom classes. And the good news is most of you have an idea of whether that's going to happen or not. So there's a couple that are going to be asynchronous only, and we'll talk a little bit about what that means. And we'll also talk about what Zoom sessions will be like. So let's go ahead and get started by talking about what is online learning. Well, pre-COVID, online learning had kind of a different definition than it has today. So online learning classes were really designed for students who had a lot of challenges with coming to class at the same time. Maybe they had work schedules, how retail and different places are kind of all over the place, and it was difficult for them to get to class on the same day and same time every week. So this was a great opportunity for students to be able to still pursue their educational goals while having the flexibility to do so. And most of what happened was called asynchronous. You see on the right-hand side, you'd be working, on the computer, but you wouldn't necessarily be working in a live way with other students and your faculty members. That would happen kind of in an asynchronous way. So you'd still have conversations and discussions. Your professor might put lectures up, but it wouldn't be a lecture that you would engage and interact in. It would be one that you would watch and then probably have an online discussion. That's kind of the traditional online asynchronous learning experience. And it looked like a few of you might still have an experience very much like that this fall. But during the pandemic, obviously, as you know, kind of the world turned upside down and some different things happened. And because the classes stopped mid-semester, everyone had days and times that they were like around. So faculty were then able to utilize technology tools like this, Zoom, to be able to engage with students directly and have this interactive lecture kind of component to classes. So many faculty really like that approach, and I think many of the students found that to be incredibly valuable too. So if you don't have that block of having the inflexible schedules and the challenges that come along with finding a specific day and time, this synchronous learning environment can be really powerful. So there's a variety of approaches. I know some of you are going to be having face-to-face classes, but a lot of you are going to be having online classes. And those online classes may look a little bit more like on the left where there's other students in them, or it may look a little bit more like it is on the right where obviously there's other students, but not live at the same time that you are in the classroom. So I just wanted to make sure that you understand there's many different shapes and sizes to what an online learning environment looks like. And it's probably going to vary. I would find, it kind of surprising if you had two experiences that were exactly the same. Just like when you're in, high school or college classes, your faculty members don't run classes exactly the same in the face-to-face world. They're not going to run them exactly the same in the online world. And I think that's great because it provides you with some flexibility and variability so that you get different kinds of experiences. So we'll talk about what some of those typical experiences will be, but again, that will vary depending on what your faculty members decide to do. So let's go ahead and now take a look at some really important points. So sometimes students think that it feels more like an independent learning task if you're going to be learning on the computer. Am I like in this alone? Well, the answer is absolutely not. Your professors really care about your success and are working so hard to provide you with a high quality, engaging learning environment. So you are not in this alone. Your faculty member is going to be there on your side throughout the entire course. And the way in which they are there on your side is going to look different. As I said before, it might be that they're holding office hours via Zoom. Some might actually have old school phone calls with students, and others may rely on more electronic means like email and messaging within Blackboard. So know that your professors are there for you. An online experience is not an independent learning. It is very much an interactive one. Just the way that interaction will take place will vary depending on how your faculty member sets it up. So a question that a lot of students ask right at the beginning is, well, how am I going to know what I need to do? Because it's not going to be exactly the same. This is not a university that's using a cookie cutter kind of approach where you're going to get exactly the same experience. You're going to get the expertise of the faculty member, which is really helpful. So how do you know? Well, the first thing you want to do is you want to explore the course in Blackboard. Some faculty members have probably already released or opened up the course. So if you haven't been on Blackboard yet, you'll probably want to go poke around, explore. But some faculty members may not have opened it up yet, so don't panic if that's the case. That's okay. Some folks are still putting the fine-tunings on it, making sure it's all ready for you. And some faculty members may want to kind of introduce you to it before they're giving you the entire class. So some you'll get to see the whole semester all at once, and other faculty members will only show you maybe like 1 week or 2 weeks at a time, so you don't get overwhelmed by everything and you're really kind of focused in on what you need to do today, tomorrow, and the next day. The other really important document is the syllabus. The syllabus is a document that faculty traditionally hand out on the first day of class, but also is communicated via electronic methods. So you'll see probably, hopefully in Blackboard, but you may also get it via email, depending on how your faculty members handle this. But every faculty member should give you the syllabus. And the syllabus really defines all of kind of why you're in that class, all the expectations, all the learning goals, the kinds of tasks that you're going to get to engage in, and hopefully the syllabus gets you pretty excited about all that. I think for me, I find the syllabus like the first day of class really exciting because I get to get information about what I'm going to learn and how I'm going to learn it. So hopefully that's the kind of information that you're looking for, and it should be in the syllabus. If for some reason you don't get a copy of the syllabus, you certainly can reach out to your faculty member and ask if you have trouble finding it. So I want to give you a couple of tips about how you can try to help students, help yourself really kind of figure out where you're going to find time to fit school. So when you take face-to-face classes, you probably fill out, a week-by-week schedule, and you're like, oh, I'm in class on Mondays and Wednesdays in the morning, and maybe Tuesday and Thursday afternoons, whatever it looks like on your calendar. And then you build in your study time around that, and you probably also are having some other things in life that you need to do. Maybe you're working, maybe you have some family obligations, other things of that nature. So you usually build all that out. Well, when you have predominantly online classes, you may not have as much time built in to your schedule. Now, if you are doing Zoom, which it looks like many of you are, so if you're doing that, then you will still have, Tuesday at 2 o'clock, I'm going to have class and I'm going to be on my computer. But for some of you, I saw that the Zoom isn't something that you're doing in all of your classes. I think the most popular answer was some of my classes are doing that. So for those classes that don't have the Zoom, you are immediately going to see a calendar that looks incredibly wide open. But you need to kind of structure that. So successful people do something called block scheduling. So they take the calendar and they map out. So even though I don't technically have class on Tuesdays from 2 to 4, that's a good time of day for me. I'm going to map that out and I'm going to make sure I'm spending time on this class. And then maybe Wednesdays, I'm going to spend working on that class. So you want to really do that. In fact, if you talk to a lot of successful people, professionals even, and certainly students that do well in school, you'll discover that mapping out your schedule is a really good strategy. I know I do that. I rely on it heavily because it makes you remember what you need to do, and it carves some time out so that you keep in mind that even though you're not physically sitting in a classroom, you have a lot to do to learn all the things that you need to learn this semester. So I hope that you think about ways to engage in some of that blocking out of time on your schedule. Let me give you one other tip, and quite honestly, these are not tips just for online classes. These are really important just for being successful in general. But with online classes, the lack of structure sometimes of having a place to go can sometimes make it feel a little bit more overwhelming, and it's easier to forget to go to class when you have to go and log in. So you decide, I'm going to log in every day from 9 to 10. Maybe you like to sleep late like my son does, and it might be more like a 2 to 3. You know, that might be the hour of the day that works better for you. And that's the beauty actually of asynchronous classes. When you don't have any Zoom meetings that you have to attend live, you can really do the work at whatever time of day works best for you. So if you're a morning person, get up early and get it done. That's me. I'm a morning person. But I know my kids, they're not morning people. I have 2 college boys myself, and they are like, you know, liking to sleep in. So they would much prefer to do their work in the afternoon and in the evening. And in most cases, you'll be able to do that as long as you meet the deadlines that your faculty set for you. So that brings me to this keeping track of your due dates. Make sure you know when everything is due. So in Blackboard, there'll be some calendar tools that I'm hoping your orientation to college faculty members will show you and you'll get to learn about. But even above and beyond that, just take each syllabus that you get, and that should have due dates in it, and then track it in whichever way you want. You could do that electronically. A lot of people like to use their phone. There's calendars in your phone that you can use. Then it also sets reminders for you. But I do know some students who actually like to go and get one of those planners and write it down the old-fashioned way. Or I have a student who really likes to have like a big wall map. You know, she likes to have the whole calendar with all of the due dates, so it's visually, like she likes that month kind of at a glance view. So you need to figure out whichever strategy works best for you. But the other thing that you want to do in all classes, but especially in online classes, is to create to-do lists. And the to-do list is basically all the tasks that you need to do, but take some of those really big tasks and turn them into smaller ones. So like, let's say you have a big final project. If you just put final project on your to-do list, if you're like most students, you're not going to do anything to go and accomplish that final project. But if on the other hand, you write down, I'm going to identify a topic for my project. I'm going to go and find, you know, 5 resources from the library on that topic. I'm going to write a paragraph today. I'm going to meet with a tutor today. I'm going to do these kinds of activities. Now, all of a sudden, those are, you know, much easier tasks to do. You're going to be more likely to do them, and it'll be easier for you to get to the finish line. So take those big projects that you have and don't just write that. I mean, it is important to have that on your calendar, but also kind of set these mini deadlines along the way for yourself. So I'm going to ask you to do one more poll for me. So if you don't mind putting that one up, so we can see which of these you think will work best for you. There's so many different options. There is no right or wrong answer here for sure. So you can go ahead and choose whichever one you think works best for you. It looks like we have the majority, so maybe you can share the results everyone can see.
Absolutely.
Great, thank you. So, I mean, first of all, I love that most of you, well, you know, the highest number of you, 41% of you said, I think all of these are going to work well for me. So that's terrific. It seemed like the to-do list and keeping that really visible is important. If I just showed you all my to-do lists, I have a new one every day. I write them electronically. I write them on stickies. I write them everywhere. Really powerful tool. It seems like the blocking out time may not be as popular as some of the other strategies, but I'm going to encourage you to try something that maybe you haven't tried before. Try blocking that out and trying to have that consistent time. You know, from 2 to 3, I'm going to work on reading or writing a paper or whatever my tasks are. So, all right, well, thanks so much for sharing those, and thanks for participating in that poll. Let's go ahead and talk about how do you participate in class, especially when it's an online class. So again, it depends on the nature of the class, but you are probably going to be asked to do a variety of kinds of learning tasks. One really popular one is online discussions. So if you haven't participated in an online discussion before, it is really different than the in-person class. You know, in an in-person class discussion, the professor throws out a question and people respond, but usually not everyone in the class responds. You know, maybe there's 4 or 5 people who raise their hands and get pretty engaged. The beautiful thing about an online discussion is everyone's voice gets heard. So everyone gets to participate. And you also get to listen to what everyone else is saying. So I think, you know, my students have always found that the online discussions have been such an incredibly awesome tool because, you know, they're often wondering, well, what are the other students thinking in this class? And this gives you a chance to hear from everyone else, and it gives you a chance to participate. I don't know about you, but I know many students aren't comfortable like just on the fly participating in a face-to-face conversation. Maybe they are doubting what they're going to say. Maybe it takes them a few minutes to kind of think through what it is they want to contribute. The beautiful thing about an online discussion is it's not in real time. So the discussion question is posted, and then you get to go and read the chapter, look at videos or websites or other resources, kind of percolate a bit. You can have a conversation with a classmate. What are you thinking about this? So you can kind of talk about it before you throw yourself out there and give some of your own thoughts. And then that really is a great way for you to, you know, kind of have your voice heard. You know, a couple of tips that I would say is, first of all, you want to make sure you're definitely reading the directions so that you're answering the question that the professor asked. Sometimes you get so excited about the topic, you might be running off in a different direction. So just circle back and make sure that you are answering the question the way they want you to answer, especially if it's a graded discussion, because that's the other way that online discussions differ from in-person discussions. Often they're graded. And that's because they tend to involve a little bit more thinking and reading and writing. So in an in-class, you're just kind of often expressing opinions, and it might be kind of a lighter conversation. But in an online discussion, you can have a pretty deep conversation about the material, and it really is a great way for you to learn the content. I love discussions because it's a great way for you to show what you've learned. So view really any assignment this way, but online discussions is a way to kind of shine in front of all of your peers and also your faculty member. Show them what you learned. What are you walking away with? But also feel okay about asking questions. When you're engaged in an online discussion, you are not expected to be an expert. You're a student learning. So you can ask questions. I'm not really sure why that would be. Here's why I think it might be, but can anyone help me better understand this? And that's what you do in an online discussion. You help one another out. You show what you learned. And that's the asking questions is really critical. And you can do that of your professor. You can do that of your peers. So it's not, again, an assignment that you're just posting your answer to, but it's a conversation. So you're going to read what others said. You're going to respond. And most faculty want you to respond in a way that adds value to the conversation. So not just saying, oh, I like that I agree with, but saying, why do you like it? What makes you agree with it? What are you basing that on? And then perhaps even saying something above and beyond what already has been there. So maybe you can identify another example that helps other students in your class understand that concept. Or you might be able to offer a different opinion. Like, you don't have to agree with everything. It can really add a lot of value for someone to question some of those. Well, what about this? Do you think this group of people would respond in the same way as that group of people responded? And what differences? You know, you can start to address some of the cultural differences. It might be age differences, depending on the nature of what you're talking about. So I hope you have some fun with those. Now, Zoom sessions. I know you folks said you're going to be doing these, so let me tell you about Zoom sessions. So you're in Zoom sessions, you've been Zooming all day, so it's not like you don't know what this is all about. But in a class, you want to make sure you're taking advantage of all of the opportunities. So just like you would in a regular face-to-face class, you need to come prepared. So make sure you look at the syllabus and see what your faculty member is expecting of you before that day. So read, review, so you have that background knowledge that you'll be able to contribute. So if the faculty member asks a question, you'll be able to raise your hand and answer. And you can do that virtually, you know, by clicking the button, or maybe they'll call on folks randomly. I don't know exactly the way that your faculty member is going to handle that, but you'll learn that the first week or so of class. Everybody will have a different style. Something that many students forget to do is to take notes. You know, like you're already on the computer, but you need to take notes, just like you would in class. Otherwise, it's going to be really hard for you to kind of hang on to all that material. In fact, there was this really interesting research study that showed that they compared students who went to class versus students who went to class and took notes versus students who didn't go to class at all. And there was really almost no difference in the learning between the students who didn't bother going to class and those who went to class but didn't bother to take notes, because our memories are just not that great. We have to write things down in order to process and learn it. So make sure you're taking notes in your Zoom session. And then, of course, you want to also ask questions. You can do that via chat. You can do that if you can unmute yourself, depending on the way that your professor will set it up. Now, I do want to emphasize that online classes, you can still connect with your classmates. I already saw a bunch of you folks chatting with one another in the chat today, and that's terrific. So you can do that outside of class through social media, through good old-fashioned phone calls or texts. You can, obviously you might have some breakout rooms, or maybe you have office hours with a faculty member, via Zoom or other technology tools. So you can find lots of ways to connect. And in some ways, my students who are online students feel like they know their classmates better because, again, they've heard all their voices and they get to hear what everyone is thinking. So I want you to feel very confident that you will find ways to connect both with your colleagues and also with your faculty member. Now, I'm kind of a student success guru here, and I love study strategies. So you'll have to bear with me as I share just a couple of strategies with you on how to be a successful student. And these are not unique to online learning, but they sometimes are even more important in an online classroom, just because, again, of the lack of face-to-face time. So here's my reading tip for you. A lot of times students might read a chapter. I don't know if you've had this experience before, but I know I have. I've read a whole chapter. I've been a good student, doing what I'm supposed to do, and I walked in feeling like, I don't know what this chapter was about. I didn't understand it. So one of the best things you can do to help you understand it is to first look at the table of contents. That's an outline of the chapter. So it gives you kind of a preview of what's to come. And then also go to the end of the chapter and read the chapter summary first. That gives you, it's kind of like watching the movie preview before you go to the movie, so you get a little bit of a sense of what it's about, and it makes it easier for that new content that you're reading to really kind of stick and for you to understand it. The other thing you can do is watch videos. Sometimes your faculty members will provide you with video resources, but if they don't, you can Google videos on the topic. I tell students all the time, it's totally fine to, I Google, I'm a faculty member and I'll Google things. You don't rely on that only when you're writing an academic report, but when you're just trying to learn the content in the beginning, it can be a great way. Sometimes the videos are an awesome opportunity. And then you want to, obviously we talked about taking notes in class. You want to take notes when you're reading, and then you want to take those and merge them. I'm telling you, one of the best things you can do is merge notes, because you're synthesizing information that you're learning. You're really processing it. It's an excellent study tool. So really take time. If you want to put it into like a table format, that would be great. If you're more visual and you want kind of a concept map or something, it doesn't matter. It could be an outline form, but you want to take and integrate and organize your notes into themes. And a secret tip for you is to test yourself. If you are going to have tests, one of the best way to learn is to practice tests. Engage in as much practice testing as possible. Researchers show that that is one of the best ways to learn. So I'll tell you a very quick story about my son. He's in college now, but a few years back, he was in high school, and I remember, I think he was a freshman or something at the time. And I came home and he's sitting at the table and I said, what are you doing? He's like, I'm studying. I said, no, you're not. He goes, how do you know I'm not studying? I said, I see you looking at your notebook. And he goes, yes, that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm studying. I said, you know what? Looking happens with your eyes. Studying happens with your mind. If I see you looking at your notebook and then closing it and then testing yourself on what you just read, now I'm seeing you study. If I see you making up practice quizzes, like on a Quizlet or something like that, or good old-fashioned index cards, whatever strategy you want to use, and then you're seeing if you remember it, now you're studying. So you need to do something more kind of deeper than just looking. Reviewing is one of what students do the most when they're studying. And then what happens is you feel really confident and you may not actually know it all. So make sure you test yourself. And then one last tip for you is that you also want to teach others, because when you teach other students or family members or friends or whoever's willing to listen, you're going to learn that content a lot better. So you're going to say at dinner, hey, guess what I learned today? And you're going to fill them in. Really great strategy. Just one quick note about taking online quizzes and tests. Everyone is going to be different, so you need to ask your faculty member. Find out, is it going to be a time test or not? Is it going to be open book? Am I allowed to use my notes or not? What format is it going to be? Multiple choice or essays? And if there's any opportunity to practice, like if there's quizzes or anything, take advantage of it. So just you have to find out what the rules and regulations are around that so that you can engage in academically honest actions and show what you know. You really want to show off what you've learned. Feedback is also really important. So you want to find as much feedback as you can in the class. First of all, checking in with your professor. How am I doing? You know, I can go to their office hours. You have no idea. Faculty love it when students go to their office hours. So if you want to stand out, you can email your professor and say, I want to check in and see how I'm doing and see how I can do better. Faculty love that. They want you to be successful. So if you reach out to them, they will be beyond thrilled. Do that, please. You can also see if you can test out using safe assign. So ask them, that's like a plagiarism tool, because sometimes students unintentionally plagiarize. So talk to your faculty member about how you can make sure that you avoided plagiarism, things like that. You can use tools like Grammarly to help make sure you're writing effectively. That'll give you feedback on whether you made any mechanical, technical kind of errors. Obviously, the hub is available. You probably have heard about the hub already. And John is on with me. So in a minute, we'll both open up for Q&A. John is the director of the hub. And the hub is the writing center on campus where they help you and support you through electronic format. So you can email your paper and they'll email it back. And they're also opening up again to have some face-to-face stuff. And then the other piece that you want to stay on top of is your grades. And also, if your faculty provide comments, you want to make sure you figure out where that is in Blackboard. And again, every faculty member is probably going to do it slightly different, but within Blackboard, you will have a My Grades tab, so keep track of how you're doing. The last thing I want to say before we close is that successful people access help. I can't say that again, like louder, more clearly. People do not need to do things all by themselves. You look at any successful person, they are surrounded by a team of people who are helping them. And you at NJCU have a team of people who want to help you. So reach out to your faculty member, reach out to the hub. The librarians are awesome. Go and talk to them. There's a helpline on Blackboard. You'll see it as soon as you go into the shell. There's a help desk. There's a support team that is here for you, waiting to help you. And that is how you will be successful, is if you are comfortable asking questions. That's what successful people do. I ask a gazillion questions every day of so many different people, and I hope that you will do that too. So I'm going to close by just saying, I want you to go out there. I want you to be amazing. I want your voices to be heard, and I hope that you'll have an incredibly successful semester. So I'm going to stop here, and then I'm actually going to stop the recording so we don't record any of your questions, and then we will be able to answer. My colleague John is with me, and you can just put your questions into the chat, and then we'll be happy to answer them. If you have to run off and do some other things, that's totally fine. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to stop sharing.